Hello everyone, welcome to Global Morning Midweek Edition. I'm Uyi Agumofwebe. As always, we're grateful to you for joining us here on the program. This is Global Television. We're live in Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And there is a lady on the show for the first time this week itself. She enjoys doing her introduction all by herself. So let's hand her the honors.
Hello and welcome to Global Morning. I am Jumai Manson. And I'm here, my co-host, Uyi Agumofwebe. It's great to be here. Hello, everyone.
Yeah, I agree. It's great to be here. Jumai, good to see you, right?
It's great to see you, Uyi. Right. So I knew you were not expecting that.
Well, this is a highly expected
Exactly. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm fine. And again, I think my excitement is going to be dampened by the news from KB State about the former chairman former now because it's past of APC who got kidnapped.
Yeah, he did.
Apparently, we understand there had been efforts to secure his release, but then he didn't stay long enough.
Very sad.
To that point. And as it stands right now, it's just a very grim reminder of how bad a place we are in this country today. And that's quite sad because while on the one hand, efforts are being made to strengthen the realization of state police, because we understand, first of all, the president has transmitted a bill to the National Assembly. Senate will sit on it, so to say, today. And then on the other hand, we see this happening. All right, it's not as if it's the first. We're only hoping it will be the last, and we're also trusting that this will be a reminder for those who are the gatekeepers on the security front in Nigeria. That look, we can't continue to live in a culture where we try to consciously or unconsciously make sense of something that ordinarily makes no sense.
Yeah. It's just unfortunate though. When I read that report, it really broke my heart. After I read the news, I read it again this morning, and it's just unfortunate that this is where we are now. That most individuals who are in captivity actually lose their lives due to maybe we do not know what happened though. It could be health challenges or maltreatment, or it's just unfortunate that this is where we are. And funny enough, do you know? Slowly and gradually, we're beginning to stop talking about the abduction that happened in Oyo State with the teachers and, of course, the students. Anyway, I read another report that they have been transferred to Kaduna. We do not know, allegedly, we do not know how true that report is.
Right.
But unfortunately, this is where we are now. This is like our reality. Hopefully, security agencies are doing their best. I know the military are up on their game when it comes to this issue of insecurity. They're not sleeping. They're in the forefront. But it's just unfortunate that more needs to be done. And, I keep asking this question. When security experts come on the program, I asked a very vital question. I said, do you think we have the capability to handle and nip this issue of insecurity in the bud? And most people will say, oh, yes, Jumai, we do. We have all it takes. After all, most of our security agencies, they went out as support systems to other countries to fight war and all of that. But why is it so difficult for us to curb this menace here in Nigeria? And that's a big question mark that it baffles me a lot. And I'm trying to fix in the puzzle, but I can't seem to. It's just unfortunate that that former APC chairman had to lose his life in the course of being in captivity. It's just unfortunate. The toll this takes on families.
Right.
The toll it takes on immediate family members, the wife, the children. It's just unfortunate. It's really sad. And I hope we go past this because really, it's really getting out of hand.
When you look at this very uninspiring situation, because I'm trying to be very economical with my words now, all right? You realize that it's a very apt reminder that more than ever before in the history of Nigeria, citizens must now understand that we are at a point in our history where we must hold leaders accountable. This is not just a television conversation. This is not just about the election in 2027.
Oh, yes.
This is about the principle of life that states that to whom much is given, much is expected.
Exactly.
In a state, for example, we all can't be the governor. We all can't stand for election to become governor of the state. So we say we are aggregating our powers, so to say, and we are entrusting it to
and
one person,
an individual.
Right? So that person becomes the governor, not because he's the smartest, not because he's the weirdest, not because he's the most experienced, but for some reasons we say, go be the governor. And to that extent, what has just happened now is we're saying to you, you're in charge of our lives, the economy, the security, social, basic amenities,
exactly,
and everything else. That's what it means. Now, again, in reality, the question is the governor superhuman? Of course, he's not, or she's not. Hopefully, we have a female governor.
Hopefully, my God's grace.
All right? The governor is not a superhuman, but the governor has stepped forward to say, look, I want to be because I know I can be.
And I'm capable.
Yes. And to that extent, you'll be dragged. You will not be dragged because the people do not like you. You'll be dragged because there's a burden now on your shoulders. And that's why when I hear governors say, well, I'm just here as a figurehead. I don't have control over security in terms of the armed forces, the police, and so on and so forth. I find it very interesting. Because these are the same governors who contradict themselves very categorically by coming on television to say, I've ordered the commissioner of police, exactly. I've instructed the commissioner of police. So how do you instruct? I'm trying to make sense of it. How do you instruct somebody over whom you have no control?
Over whom you say you are a figurehead.
I mean, that's what you told us just a fortnight ago. 2 weeks down the line, you're telling us that you've instructed. So governors must now realize, because I think enough of these, let's go to Abuja, let's go to the federal government, let's go to President Tinubu, right? The governors must now realize that they are the chief security officers in their states. The issue of, exactly.
Number one.
So the issue of whether you have control over security, architecture, apparatus or not, it's pedestrian, all right? We must stay with the conversation. And the conversation is that you must protect the people. Because when it comes to getting into office for your first 4 years or for re-election, you know how to get around it. You do not give excuses because you tell yourself there's a one-way traffic to this. We've got to win or we win. Because that's your personal ambition, that's your selfish goal. How is it that you do not bring that same amount of energy when it comes to securing the lives of the same people who voted you into office to be the governor of the state?
And that is why I have great respect for the international folk. Because if they know that they cannot deliver, if they're not competent enough for that particular seat, or they're not giving back to individuals who put them in that particular position, they'll just resign. They'll resign.
You do the honorable thing.
That's the honorable thing. But here in Nigeria, you remain on that seat. It doesn't matter how bad it gets. It doesn't matter how many lives are being lost. They will remain on that particular seat. And even when you tell the public that it's beyond your control, you still remain on that seat. That is where we are now. And, you know, I was we were talking yesterday when we were in office, and then we were saying part of the things that are the problems of Nigeria is greed. Once we remove that and we start being sympathetic, understand that the plight of individuals on whom you represent, fixing yourself in their shoes, I think there will be headway in a sort of way. Like you said, individuals who are there in the front burner are not superhumans, but at least there's a ton of action that you will go about these hem of affairs, that it will speak virtue and speak a lot. It will actually make a lot of sense. But unfortunately, this is where we are. These individuals, governors, well, I want to use governors, they'll tell you they're just figureheads, they cannot. But hey, my vote, which is my power, helped you to get on that seat. I didn't need someone to actually convince me to. I decided to because I felt you were competent enough to move us forward when it comes to all areas where you said security, you said infrastructure, every other thing to make my life more palatable in that particular state. But unfortunately, this is where we are. And because there is no, I always say we do not monitor. Sometimes we do not. It's just now that most Nigerians are becoming involved when it comes to these issues of why is this like this? Talk to me about it. I want to know. I want to be in the know. It's just recently. Before it was just everyone was just normal and we were all just looking and staring. But now people are now more aware and they understand that that is their right also. For as much as I vote you into power, I have every right in the world to ask for accountability, transparency, and credibility from you that I have cast my vote to ensure that you are there in that particular position. But unfortunately, that this is where we are in Nigeria, and it's just unfortunately.
You know, when we had General Rabi, blessed memory, pass away the other day, we thought that would be more like a turning point, maybe a curve in the way we approach the fight against insecurity. But with this one, I mean, that was in Katsina State, this in Kebbi, the same region, the same northwest of Nigeria,
exactly.
Right? So the question is, what lesson will this teach us as a government or as a people? We wait to see. But let's find consolation in knowing that today the Senate will particularly sit to, as it were, do an assessment of the bill that has been sent to it. It's apparently an executive bill from the president to say, look, we need to move real quick with the police, state police thing.
Very important.
Because without that framework, there's next to nothing you can do as far as state police is concerned. But sometimes my fear, I mean, in recent times really, has been, look, this calls by some people, even by some within this government, to say, look, Nigerians must now have to protect themselves. Will it not worsen a situation that is already extremely bad? Because one of the things I learned very early as a young boy growing up is survival instincts. By nature, people want to survive. Whether survival means getting food, ensuring that someone else doesn't hurt them or put them in harm's way, people want to survive by nature, right? And you can't alienate them from that right to survive. After all, you live in a system where the government has shown over time that we are helpless about this. How do we mean government is helpless? Without saying it in that way. It's to say that, first of all, every time there's an incident of this nature, you just come out and you say we condemn it. You say it's not in our character. And then you have those who say the terrorists are our brothers. As somebody once said, they are brothers. And then you have those who say, well, this is not the first time it's been on, even in Jonathan days, even in the days of Buhari. Those who are saying let's negotiate with them, yes. After if you did it with the Niger Delta militants, why aren't you doing it with terrorists?
Exactly.
But just so we're clear, last night news came through that the U.S. has now designated Nigeria as the country financing terrorism. In fact, financing ISWAP or ISIS. I mean, if you look at the bigger picture. And they have released names of individuals and entities that they say, this is coming straight from the Department of State. So this is not a hearsay, it's not a roadside piece of news. So, to that extent, you realize that we're playing with fire, whether we realize it or not, especially on the side of government. Because at the end of the day, for a government and a political class that obviously seem more obsessed with elections in 2027, it becomes very difficult for you to even convince yourself that government is serious about the fight against insecurity. Look at Oyo, for example. Just like you mentioned, gradually that heat is beginning to down. Yes. Because at some point, people have got to move on. I saw a video yesterday. Somebody posted it about the late Alex Ekubo. I think it was the social aspects of the event. People were eating, they were drinking. It was like a reception, if you know what I mean, inside the hall. And somebody said, look, the poster of the video said, we need to realize that this was a 40-year-old man who died. And as such, it shouldn't be an occasion to dine, to wine, and to make merry. Another person, a few other persons down the timeline, quite a number of them, they said, look, it was more like a consensus. The guy has died. Besides, he left a legacy. He led a life that is worth celebrating. So if people decide to eat or drink or do both, you can't blame them, you can't fault them. In any case, he has left people behind that must continue to live, make him proud, sustain his legacy the best way they know how to. But what I took from that, much as I didn't comment, I didn't interact, I didn't engage with that post, is no matter what happens, no matter who the person is to whom that thing has happened, life will go on.
Exactly.
We've lost presidents in this country, whether in Kaki or in Agbada, and life moved on.
Yes.
So we're saying that to say that we must now realize that at the end of the day, nobody's coming to save us. Nigeria must take responsibility for its own survival as a country, as a sovereign state. My fear, again, on the final note, is that ISIS is now having a stronger foothold by the day across West Africa and even beyond the Sahel region. So it's not just a question of they are here now. They've always been here, of course, but we're now saying that they are expanding their frontiers, and that should give us a sleepless night.
Yes, it should. It should give us. It is a cause for worry when you hear issues like this, especially when the part where you say life must go on, and gradually, like I mentioned before, when you look back at the teachers and those students, those children that were abducted, it's just like the Chibok girls, the instance of the Chibok. You saw how it was. We're talking about it.
12 years and counting.
12 years and counting. And of course, the protests here and there, people coming out, even both home and abroad, release the Chibok girls, let them come home. Gradually, we saw what happened. I just pray it doesn't get to this point, because we have 2-year-olds in their midst, we have 3-year-olds and all of that. It's just unfortunate when you think about it. It's so heartbreaking when you think about it. But like you said, life must go on. But at the same time, what can you do for as much as you want life to go on, but what difference have you made as an individual in order to stop this act that is ongoing? What difference have you made? What legacy have you made? Someone said something, I saw a post and says, for as much as the 2027 election is coming, and we are all complaining that the economy is bad, high cost of living and all of that, what did you do even when you were not in power or the front line, what did you do to make the next generation better, to look up to say, oh, okay, they actually tried and they made it easier? What did you do? And that's a big question mark that every one of us needs to understand and know. What did you do? What did I do? Is it just to leave everything in the hands of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu? Of course, like one of our guests, he says, he will be held accountable because he is representing us when it comes to lives, properties, and he's the #1 citizen of Nigeria. But at the same time, you as an individual, what did you do? For as much as this is a big cry for help, because definitely that's where we are now. Just unfortunate that there's so many insecurity. People are scared. You can't be 2 eyes closed now. Can we? We're trying. That's a big question mark. And we just hope and pray. For me, we just hope and pray that the best comes in as soon as possible.
Yes, of course. The best is what we hope for and we look forward to. Let's take a break now. The rest of Global Morning continues shortly. Do stay with us.
All right, you're welcome back from that very short break. And if you're just tuning in, this is Global Morning on Global Television. And up next is the Taste and Texture segment. Yes, it's all about food, breakfast ideas, right, Uyi?
Of course it is.
Okay. Don't ask him what we're having.
I'm not so curious.
Okay, very good. I like that. He's not so curious. Automatically, he's not going to eat anything this morning. So up next is the Taste and Texture segment. Stay tuned.
Hello everyone and welcome to Taste and Texture. This is Saadatu Garba, your creative chef. In today's episode of the program, we'll be making yam and scrambled eggs. Yam and egg is the ultimate breakfast consumed in Nigerian homes. The delicious richness of yam pairs nicely with the egg and other ingredients that you'd love to make this over and over again. Ingredients: yam, 4 eggs, chopped onions, chopped fresh tomatoes, chopped peppers, seasoning cubes, salt, vegetable oil, and water. To prepare, peel the yam and cut into desired sizes. Add your peeled yam into a pot. Add salt and water and cover to boil. For the scrambled eggs, dice your onions, tomatoes, and peppers into desired sizes and add into a bowl. Break 4 eggs into a different bowl and add salt. Add some oil in a pan and heat up. Fry the onions for a bit and add pepper and tomato mix. Fry the mixture for 3 to 5 minutes while stirring gently. Add some seasoning cubes for taste and stir again. Add your eggs to the fried mixture and allow to fry for 3 to 5 minutes while stirring gently. Allow the oil to evaporate and turn down the heat. There you have it, your yam and scrambled eggs is ready. That's a wrap on today's episode of Taste and Texture. I hope you enjoyed these culinary demonstrations and trust you will try this recipe at home. Be sure to join me again for yet another taste-friendly delicacy. I am Saadatu Garba, your creative chef, saying thank you for watching.
Right, you're welcome back, and if you're just tuning in, this is Global Morning, and of course that was the Taste and Texture segment, yam and eggs. Yam and eggs. things.
Yeah, it's nice breakfast idea. But I can also do it for dinner. It's just that life begins in the morning, so I think we have to keep the main thing, and that happens to be breakfast.
Okay.
I made you proud, I know.
All right, up next, of course, let's get inspired this morning
Right.
with Heart to Heart Inspirational with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Stay tuned.
Hello and welcome to another moment of Heart to Heart Inspirational. Let's talk heart to heart a little bit, because a lot of people have not been able to bounce back after the last time they failed. My name is Ramsey Enoch Agbo. Welcome to Heart Inspirationals. Failure is a feedback and not a funeral. I want to say that again because of people who failed. Some people fell and they remain on the ground. They never got up again because of what they feel people around them are going to say. But then failure is a feedback. And that's why some people will tell you all the time that whatever happens, all right, there is a lecture from every lesson. Whatever happens to you in life, there is something that you are meant to learn from it, either positively or negative thing that you need to take cognizance of and be watchful as you move on the journey of life. So I just want to tell you today that failure is a feedback and not a funeral. What kind of feedback did you get from that last failure? Have you even tried anything at all? Have you experienced failure before? If you've not experienced failure before, it means you need to try harder, because on this journey of destiny, people who are successful today are people who have failed a number of times and they got up on their feet, learned from their mistake, and their mistake became a stepping stone for them, and of course they are where they are today. Why? Because they never allow that failure to become a funeral to their dream. What am I emphasizing? As a matter of fact, let's normalize something today, all right? Let's normalize something today. A failure, you've heard about it all the time. Okay, this person is a failure, that person is a failure. People assess their counterparts, their neighbors, their brothers, their colleagues differently with different perspectives. Some persons already have been tagged as failure, and that has been affecting a lot of people. But then, have you accepted that you are a failure? That somebody told you you are a failure does not make you a failure until you accept that you are a failure. All right, not because it feels good, yeah, but because it is necessary. Sometimes, it's risk. It's risk. If you have taken a risk before, and of course, it didn't go well the way you think it was going to go, and you failed, it doesn't mean that is a funeral. It doesn't mean you shouldn't try it again. I was speaking with someone a few days ago, yeah, and we're talking about a particular business, and the young man told me, now I am successful, but then during my wilderness experience, when I was in the workshop, nobody knew anything about me. When I was failing over and over and over again, I lost money several times. I had to stay indoors and think of the next thing to do. He failed severally until he said, no, I am not going to allow this failure become a funeral. My dream is not going to be cut short by this failure. And he stood on his ground. Consistency. I must always emphasize consistency anytime I come up to speak to anyone on Heart to Heart, because it is very important. If you want to succeed in life, then consistency and discipline is very important. But the bottom line is this: nobody ever succeeds without first stumbling. Yes. You stumble, then you stand again. Even every little child, before a child starts walking, you stand them up, you see them, they walk a little bit, they fall. They walk a little bit, they fall until their leg gets stabled on the ground. All right? And you see them walking firmly. Then before you know it, they start running. The same thing is applicable to life. So failure, as a matter of fact, is not proof that you can't. All right, it's not a proof that you can't do it. It's proof that you tried. It's a proof that you tried. When you fail, it means you tried and you failed. It doesn't mean that's the end. It reveals what doesn't work. and refine what eventually would work later. That's what failure does. Anytime you fail, you know that, yes, this one does not work. Let me try the other one. It gives you a focus. It makes you know that, yes, if I go this way, I'm going to fail again. So I need to do something else. It's only a fool that do the same thing the same way and expect a different result. If you are doing one thing the same way all the time, you get the same result. You need to apply technicality, strategy, discipline, excellence every time. Whatever you do, let that touch of excellence be in your head. All right? So that when you fail in one thing, you try doing it the other way. But then don't allow that first, second, third, fourth failure be your funeral. Let your dream and your vision and your talent not be buried because you failed. Because that failure is trying to refine you. It's trying to build something in you. What do you have to do? I want you to know that failure, what it does is that it reveals what doesn't work and refines what eventually will work. But you need to have this mentality. Every setback is information. If you are willing to learn, yes, that's what it means. Every setback that you've had in the past is an information. Because there is something you need to learn from every setback, from every failure. Everyone throwing stones at you right now is because they know you are going somewhere. Let me tell you the truth. We have a lot of friendly enemies these days. Some people are smiling with you, but then they are not interested in your success. What they say behind you, if you hear it, hey, but then that shouldn't deter you. That shouldn't deter you because you have a destination. So every setback is information if you are willing to learn, because most people don't fail because they are incapable. That you failed, it's not because you are incapable, but because you are going somewhere, because you are dogged, because you are rugged, because you are determined, because you are focused, because you have a dream, you have a vision, something you are pursuing and something you want to get. You have a target. So when people like that fail, they fail because they don't stop. But if you stop anytime soon, it means that failure has gotten to you. Let me give you an instance, an illustration. For instance, a GPS recalculates when you miss a turn. It doesn't shut down. All right? Failure, in other words, simply means it's time to adjust. Anytime you fail, the message is, no, I need to adjust. This principle, this procedure, this formula is not working. I need to adjust. There is something I need to do so that I don't fail again. That's what it means. Anytime you fail, there is a message. It is telling you it is time to adjust the procedure. It is time to re-strategize. That's what it means. All right, so you don't need to abandon your journey because you failed. There is a practical mindset shift that you need to have, and this is it. Number one, stop attaching shame to failure. Yes, stop attaching shame to failure. Some people, when they fail, they feel shy. Oh no, I'm not going to get on that stage again. They will laugh at me. No, I'm not going to do that business again. People will laugh at me. People will mock me. The same people will celebrate and want to identify with you if you are a success. So there should be a mindset and a mind shift for you. Extra lessons instead of self-criticism. Stop criticizing yourself because you failed. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop comparing yourself to other people with other people because you failed. That you failed. Failure is not a funeral. Stop burying yourself in shame and criticism. Try again. Make it better. Make it wiser. Make it stronger. That's what it means. All right? Failure is tuition paid for future success. That is a quote that I'm bringing to you now. Failure, I said, is what? Is tuition paid for future success. But if you don't pay, if you go to school now, all right, 100 level, you need to pay a tuition in 100 level. You get to 200, you pay another tuition before you can get to 300 level. In every of this level, there are tuitions to pay. If you want to change levels in life, don't be scared of failure. If you are scared of failure, you will never try anything good. So what you have to do? Keep pushing. Don't bury your dream because of one mistake that you made. I'll keep saying this. Learn, rise, and move forward. Don't worry about what people are saying. Don't worry about the situation around you. Don't think, oh, I have failed. I don't need to try it again. Keep trying. Change the strategy. Become wiser. Failure make you wiser. Because you walk through this way and you fail, you apply this strategy, this technique, this principle, this formula, and you failed. You will now need to re-strategize, use another formula, all right, until you get to your success, until you get to what you want to achieve in life, all right? So you need to know that anytime you fail, it's a signal that you need to turn. You need to do something again. You need to re-strategize. You need to improvise, come up with something new. As a matter of fact, failure is not the best option for you. So what do you have to do? Try as much as possible, right, to be sincere in everything that you do. Because if you want to please people, it will be disastrous. You don't need to please anyone, all right? You don't need to please anyone. It is when you're thinking about pleasing people that when you stumble, you say, oh, I've disappointed this person. I've disappointed even people who really love you, who want you to be successful. By the time you fail, instead of them condemning you, they will come and encourage you to do better. And that's the reason you need mentors. That's the reason you need people to talk to per time. All right? You need to talk to people. See, if you are embarking on a project, I emphasize mentorship all the time. I was speaking with a friend a few days ago, and I told the person, if I want to do this thing you're doing now, it is going to be express for me. It's going to be easier. I may have hitches. There might be some times where you have losses or maybe failure at some point, but then you have people to ask questions. I have someone to ask questions. Hey, I got hooked here. What do I do? Even the disaster is not going to be as disastrous as it would have been if you never have anyone to guide you on this journey of destiny. You really need people, okay? Because as your association determine your acceleration in life, okay? And your friends, you need to be careful with the kind of friends you have. If you have a bad friend, it is disaster. If you have a good friend, it means you have a shoulder to lean on, a shoulder to stand on and be tall so that you can get to that success that you are running after, that you are pursuing. Yes, congratulations, everyone. You are a success going somewhere to happen. Don't allow anything stop you on the way. Not failure, not criticism. Don't bury yourself because you failed. Failure is not funeral. Bye-bye for now and have a beautiful day.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
Always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
Welcome back. Hope you were well inspired with Heart to Heart Inspirational with Ramsey Enoch Agbo. And at about this time is the newspaper review segment. And we're going to start with the first paper of the day. It's the Nation newspaper. Now below the nameplate it says, State Police, Senators decide today. And the writer says here, reps plan first line funding for security. Those are all the major headlines on the Nation newspaper. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with that particular issue on ground. Next, we have the Punch newspaper.
I just sent the nameplate of the Punch this morning. It says Nadeco rejects Abdusalami's claims on Abiola military rule. Is Iya, who is speaking here on page 7. So you've got to read details to understand what exactly the story is about. The Star headline has Kika, State Police, Senate votes today as Tinubu transmits bill to National Assembly, accompanied with 3 riders. Ex-security chiefs splits over expanded powers for governors. Senate sets for historic votes as Akpabio rallies lawmakers. President sends constitutional alteration bill seeking creation of state police. The right move on page 2 is where you have those details. U.S. blacklists Nigerian firms over ISIS funding. What's more, OUTH, that's Labisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital, paralyzed as doctors strike over unpaid allowances. Nigeria spends 5 times more on debt than health. Education, that's a report. That's no news really, because we know what time it is for our country. A very sad place regarding the economy right now. You can be paying much more to service debts than you're doing for driving health and education. Those are the first 2 indicators when you look at the Human Development Index. But
Very true.
What do I know?
Very true.
All right, so on page 22 is where you find those details. Police intercept 47 sacks of military uniforms in Lagos. Police intercepts 47 sacks, not 47 pairs, 47 sacks.
That's a lot.
So the question is, how many pairs do you have in one sack times 47 sacks? All right, that's what the police have now found.
And that's a cause for concern. That means we have individuals who will actually, I'm looking for the word now, that will act in line as if they are officers of these
imposters.
Imposters,
Right.
That's the word I'm looking for. Imposters. And then to what aim or to what end is this all about?
Of course, to worsen the state of security in the country.
Exactly.
Whether you call it insurgency or banditry or kidnapping. Right.
Yes.
So it is becoming deeper and more sophisticated for all the
More
governments.
worrisome.
Yeah. Abduction fear. Oyo National Union of Teachers rejects school resumption. You see, this is one of the problems. So schools can't resume because people have legitimate and valid fear of being abducted for no crimes of theirs.
Will you actually blame them?
Of course, that's the reason I said for valid and very understandable reasons.
Because the ones that were abducted, the teachers and the children,
no idea where they're coming.
In Oyo State itself, there is no idea, and it doesn't show like the governor or the government or this administration actually have that empathy towards these individuals. I'm sure they're trying their best, I know. But is the best good enough at this point now? It's a big question mark. They've been held in captivity for more than a month plus now. And that is a cause for concern. So if these other schools and of course the teachers refuse to resume, I
can't blame them.
You cannot blame them at all.
Well, it's an interesting place we are at as a country, but please be sure to read up details on the Punch newspaper this morning because we've got quite a number of headlines from there. All right, do you mind walk us through headlines from the Standard Times this morning?
All right, now the Standard Times, now below, above the nameplate, it says NUPRC, Defense Ministry unveil non-kinetic strategy to protect oil asset, boost production. And that read is on page 13. On page 13, again, it says here, Fidelity Bank empowers exporters to unlock CFTA opportunities with EMP19, and that's on page 13. Page 13 again, it says FG assures ship owners of CVFF disbursement amid industry skepticism. Now, below the nameplate, and that's the star story on the Standard Times, and that read you will find on page 9. It says federal government moves to address cement price surge, sets July 1 talks with manufacturers. Well, I think that's a step in the right direction. Let's cross our fingers and see. And below that, it says Oyebanji, deputy, receives certificate of return from INEC. Re-elected governor promises greater service to Ekiti people. And that reads on page 62. Now, on page 63, it says Lagos police intercepts 47 sacks of military camouflage suspected drugs. Now, that's a cause for concern, and hopefully the needful is done in order to curb this nemesis and nip it in the bud. On 62, it says Dangote Refinery refutes false claim on PMX export and re-importation. On 62 again, page 2, pardon me, it says Tinubu sends state police bill to Senate. And on page 3, it says Lagos police I've read that. And on page 3, it says Jet A1 crisis, airlines borrowing, cutting operations to stay afloat. And that's from Oyema. And on page 2, it says Lagos shuts Oshodi market over attack on sanitation officers. Well, let's hope and pray that it's for the best. And on page 3, it says El-Rufai files no case submission as court sustains tough bail conditions. And at the foot of the Standard Times, it says here, total electricity blackout hits rivers, Imo, Bayelsa State. And basically, those are all the headlines making rounds on the Standard Times newspaper. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well informed to avoid fake news. Next, we have the Nigerian Tribune, and Uyi will walk us through that paper.
Oh, thank you, Jumai. We'll begin with the one at the top right corner of the front page of the Nigerian Tribune. It says, Oyo declares 16-hour curfew in 10 local government areas. The writer tells us affects all local government areas bordering Old Oyo National Park. The details are on page 2. U.S. names Nigerian bureau d'echange in ISIS financing. IGP bans police officers from TikTok, Facebook, others. Details are on pages 2 and 6. Police intercepts 8,000 military camouflage uniforms, illicit drugs in Lagos. Debunk reported relocation of 47 kidnapped Orire students, teachers to Kaduna. I think at this point in time, Nigerians are more concerned about their release than their location. The big one says, road getting clear for state police to just a rider with it. Tinubu sends executive version of bill to Senate, wants speedy action. Upper chamber debates bill today, and Global Television will track that session for you. INEC presents Oyebanji deputy certificates of return. Governor promises greater service to Ekiti people. You can read up details on page 12. And then we have a little bit of health story here. Excess body weight raises risk for 19 cancers worldwide. I'm going to take that again. Excess body weight raises risk for 19 cancers worldwide. That's according to studies. So you've got to stay in shape, make your health a matter of priority. Again, nobody's coming to save you. Those are all the headlines from the Nigerian Tribune this morning. Let's turn now to the Daily Independent.
All right, now the Daily Independent newspaper, and it reads here, below the nameplate, the star story, there says, poor coordination, policy gaps cripple textile sector. Very unfortunate there. I know when the textile sector in Kanu and all of these places back in the day.
Right.
It was really making waves, of course, employment opportunities. But now, what happened to that industry, I would say? Well, your guess is as good as mine. And on page 6, it says SEC bans promotion of purported Dangote refinery IPO. And the writer says orders immediate refunds to investors, and that's on page 6. And on page 7, on the Daily Independent, it says critical road infrastructure vital for knowledge-driven economy, and that's from our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. That's on page 7. Just flip over to page 7. And on page 7 again, it says IMF acts as colonial debt enforcer, crippling Nigeria, others, and that's from the report. Page 7 again says El-Rufai loses bill variation battle, remains in prison custody. And below that it says Oyema warns over looming collapse of Nigerian airlines. And the Star Story reads, demands tax review committee to save air carriers. And below that again, on page 29, it says, police probe ammunition parcel delivered to bank. And that's from the MD, and that's on page 29. And at the foot of the Daily Independent, it says, outban tinted vehicles nationwide. If I had the power, and that's from the Inspector General of Police, Olatunji Disu, and that's on page 6. Basically, those are all the major headlines on the Daily Independent. Go out and get yourself a copy and be well abreast with the major issues making rounds. And now we have the Nigerian News Direct. Over to you, Uwe.
It says forbearance exits pushes banking sector NPL, that's non-performing loan ratio, near 10%. Ogun State government secures $250 million dairy investment. That's quite a lot of money for dairy. So more milk in Ogun State, the gateway state as we call it. Tinubu submits constitutional amendment bill for Senate police, for state police to National Assembly. We understand the Senate will vote on that bill today. May Nigeria win in all of this. OUTCH doctors embark on indefinite strike as NARD, that's the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, warns hospital management against victimizing participating staff. Politics of strike and the politics of doctors' welfare. Adeleke 8 Accord members defect to APC. Has the governor taking that, given that he has an election coming in less than 2 months, right? Not much of headlines on the front page of the Nigerian News Direct, but please do find a reason at least to reach details for yourself. Next port of call is the New Telegraph.
All right, now on the New Telegraph, and it says above the nameplate, it says PMS, Nigeria saves 10 trillion naira in 5 months on domestic production surge. And here it says import slashed by 83%. And before the nameplate, it says man, 1.92 trillion naira bank credit shortfall, stifling production activities. And below the nameplate of the New Telegraph, it says Tinubu sends state police bill to Senate, seeks constitutional amendment. And that read, if you flip over to page 4, 7, and 29, you'll get more details. And on page 2 and page 9, it says Ekiti Gaba. INEC presents certificate of return to Oyebanji deputy. And it says here, governor's path to second term. On page 4, it says alleged wiretapping. DSS closes case against El-Rufai. And it says here, ex-governor opts for no case submission. And below that on page 2, it says FAN raises airport cab tariff by 200%. And that's a lot. That's a lot, basically. And below that, it says that here on page 2, 5, and 7, it says U.S. designates Nigerian others financiers of ISIS. And it says on page 5, xenophobia, Nigeria others should demand compensation for victims, says ex-envoy. And below that it says vitamin D, calcium don't boost bone health. And that's study, and that's cause for concern because we all know that vitamin D, calcium, it's what we've always known. So now a study is coming out to say, no, it doesn't boost bone health. And you're wondering what that is all about. Well, anyway, you have to flip over to page 30 and then take out time to go purchase the New Telegraph newspaper to be abreast, or will I say be informed, of the major issues making rounds. Next, we have the business day, and that's our last point of call on the newspaper review.
Let's see what we have right there, the business day. We have one more. I think that's the last, incidentally, the business day newspaper. So let's follow the money for you real quick, everyone. Incidentally, that's the big one. It says meet 16 heads of Nigeria's power families vying for office ahead 2027, of course. It's meeting power in 2027.
That's all.
Yes, quite an interesting read from all of the papers this morning, Jumai.
Yes,
I would hope you would now play your part by ensuring you also read the details, and that way you can stay ahead of the news going into this very promising day. Please remember too that all of these papers that we bring here, I mean the headlines in particular, they're exactly as published by their respective publishers. Global Television as a broadcasting media entity, or the team here on Global Morning does not in any way contribute to them. We're going on a short break, and when we return, Ogochukwu Moguno will be here with Social Bars.
At Witchtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Witchtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Witchtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
Always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Boss Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. It's time to look at bottom issues on social media. Today we're looking at presidential media aide Bayo Onanuga, who has sparked reactions after stating that he does not see the extent of hardship and hunger many Nigerians have been expressing concern about. Speaking during an interview on Arise Television, the special advisor to the President, Bola Tinubu, on information and strategy said he regularly engages with people who work for him privately to understand how they are coping with the current economic situation. According to Onanuga, the Tinubu administration has made efforts to ease the burden of citizens, pointing to the increase in the national minimum wage, which he said has risen by more than 100% under the current government. His comments have since generated debate among Nigerians, with many sharing different views on the state of the economy and the cost of living across the country. Let's take a look at that video.
I was traveling from Lagos, from Ibadan to Lagos, and Google Maps told me that there's a go-slow in the approach to Lagos. I decided to take Ijebu-Ode, Shagamu, via Shagamu. And what struck me was that I just found myself on a paved road, concrete road. I said, wow, when was this one built? I've not been to Ijebu for some time, and the few times I've been there, I always came through Ekpe. So I said, wow, this is different. And I found that our people, when I say our people, I mean our Ijebu people, they've stopped complaining. I say, oh, no wonder. They now have a brand new road that's not just an asphalt road, a concrete road.
Right.
Is that not beneficial to me or any use of that road? Is it beneficial? People are benefiting.
Yeah,
I live in Aja.
Yeah.
Anytime I go to Lagos and I ask Google Map to tell me how soon will I get home, Google Map will tell me 1 hour, 7 minutes. Before, 2 hours, 30 minutes. And the reason for that is because we now have a coastal road that has shortened my travel time. Is that not beneficial? What are people talking about really? Look, if you have students, if you are a parent, and you have 4 children in university, and they're able to access federal loan, which is interest-free, are they not benefiting? Are the parents not benefiting?
You see,
if you are a civil servant and you can access the credit card, very cheap loan, at below interest is about 7%, now people can access that loan at single digit. Are they not benefiting?
Well, there are question marks over how monies are
trickling
down to people with regard to those loans.
We have been pigeonholed into certain assumptions, certain conclusions. People just say it's like in the early days of this government. I think the president went to Lagos. I think it was coming from the Central Mosque, and somebody now did a voiceover. And that means we are hungry. Since then, people have been saying that, hey, we are hungry.
Yeah, but
I'm a Nigerian. I have people working for me privately. I don't see the level of hunger people are talking about because I see them and I keep asking them questions. How are things? How are they adjusting? What are the problems?
So that is the SA for information to the president. And yes, he said he didn't say the level of hunger that everyone is complaining about in the country. We have coastal roads and all of that, Well, let's take a look at some comments from social media as regards this topic and how many persons agree to whatever it is he has said so far. And the first comment is coming from Power Photography. And Power says, see what the people that have access to the president is saying. We are just finished. Okay, thank you so much, Power Photography. And the next comment is coming from Simply Jesse. And Jesse says, the fact that people are surviving doesn't mean they are living well. Minimum wage may have increased on paper, but food, rent, transport, electricity, and basic necessities have increased far beyond it. Nigerians are not complaining for fun. People are genuinely struggling. All right, thank you so much, Jesse. The last comment for this topic is coming from I Am Olude. And Olude says, since you don't know there is concrete road in Ijebu, I'm sure you have seen Iwo Road to Inter-Axis Road, Ibadan. If you want to see more, start traveling by road because it's safer and quicker. Also, go into the streets to ask people, is there any problem, sir? Not your private workers. All right, thank you so much, everyone who dropped their opinion concerning to this topic. And yes, I am not alone today in the studio. I have with me Uyi Agumafwe. Good morning, Uyi.
Good morning, Ogochukwu. It's so good to see you and Uncle Bayo.
I said, when I heard that, I saw this video, I think late last night before I slept, and I went through it again and again, and I asked myself, what is coastal road? I understand. I really appreciate the fact that the Minister of Works, David Umahi, is doing so much when it comes to roads and, coastal roads, just like Bayo has stated. But compare it to the state of living right now. How many persons still really drive on that road? Can they afford to buy the fuel we have in the filling station right now? Can they afford to buy food? So how many persons really drive on the road? It is the cost of living that we are complaining about. He mentioned loans that you still have, a percentage of interest, on that loan. How many persons can really borrow and still pay back at this point? And who will borrow you? If the government is going to borrow you, how are they going to pay back? I was talking to someone a few days ago, and somebody said, oh, the government has really done so well. There is a student loan there, which is NEL fund. You can actually borrow and, finish up your school and, pay back. And I said, when you are done with school, what is the guarantee that you get a job, a good job that can actually pay that loan? Because over time, you start having interest on that loan. So what is the guarantee? So much. I really do not expect this coming from, the SA to the president when it comes on information, because, someone just pointed that out, in one of the comments and said, these are the people that have first-hand access to the president. So right now we are imagining what kind of information are they feeding the president with? What do you think,
Okay, so if I sit here and say I know what kind of information they feed the president, I'll be lying, really. Excuse me. It turns out that I've never even met Mr. Bayo Onanuga in person. What I do know for a fact is he's a far, you see how I put it, far senior colleague of ours. I mean, my generation of broadcast journalists. That said, and unfortunately, it's impossible, absolutely impossible, to now do an assessment of this interview on the basis of his professional background. Instead, we have to look at him from the prism or through the prism of politics. I am afraid, but I have to say that Mr. Onanuga didn't go into that studio to have an intelligent conversation, all right? And it's very clear that he went into politics. Of course, he went to
campaign,
protect and defend his principle and the government in which he serves, which is understandable, at least on some level. But here's the problem with that, right? You have a country of over 200 million people. Nigerians are some of the most intelligent human beings on the earth today. So when you speak to issues that directly impact their lives, you've got to be very careful. You've got to come with proofs, or as they say on social media, with receipts. All right, you've got to have the details, you've got to have the numbers, you've got to have the data to support it. Otherwise, when you come to national television, primetime program for that matter, to talk about coastal road that leads from one end of the country to the other, a coastal road, by the way, whose funding we are even told didn't go through due process. All right, so we are not going to sit here and have that conversation today, but when you have an Uncle Bayo, as I would fondly call him, who would rather want to talk about people who work in his private interest, in his private business. By whose own, if you like, experiences, he now says that, well, Nigeria is doing well. I think it's a shame. And then you go ahead to say that this government, under the leadership of President Tinubu, has bumped minimum wage by more than 100%. The question is, are we talking about the volume of money, or we are talking about the value of money? There's a clear-cut distinction between value and volume. Somebody can have 500 books. Another person can have 3 books. Ironically, the person who has 3 books can be far more knowledgeable than the guy with 500 books, because the guy with 500 books probably does not read those books. So the fact that we see him with 500 books, the fact that we see him with an elaborate library is not a guarantee that he knows his right from his left. It's about what they consume and how that consumption, so to say, shapes their life. So for the everyday Nigerian, they're just going to fold their arms and watch Uncle Bayo and say, hold on a second. Is he talking about my Nigeria or another Nigeria, probably in a movie? Otherwise, we've come to a point where we are reminded that politicians think they are talking to a bunch of people who are dumb and can't figure out the difference between black and white. And it's a shame knowing that this is someone who knows better. This is someone who has a history of holding government accountable, including military dictatorship.
Yes.
So how do you come on live television, all right, in 2026, in a civilian government, and you say that you don't understand what people mean when they complain about hunger? Somebody said a prayer for Uncle Bayo on X, formerly Twitter, this morning. I'm not going to sit here and talk about what the prayer says.
All right, so this video honestly is really raging right now on social media. A lot of persons just feel like all hope is lost, because if this person, the person that has access to the president, is saying this on national TV, that means there is no hope for Nigerians. That means whatever it is we are facing right now, the president is even not aware. There's a comment, I just tried not to take that comment because it's not really a good one for us, but I'm just going to summarize it. The person just said the president is just there and he's not doing anything, not because he does not want to do anything, because the people who are feeding him with information which is one of them, which is Bayo Onanuga, is not feeding him right. They are giving him a wrong information. Just like Bayo mentioned in that interview, he said just because one day the president was coming out from the National Mosque there in Lagos State, and when he came out, someone just shouted, there is hunger, and that's how everyone has been shouting there is hunger, not like there is hunger. So it's more like everybody just wants to make it, is it a lyrics or a song, something like that? It's not like there is hunger, but people are just shouting. Really, I think Uncle Bayo, just like you called him, we shouldn't just talk about it on the surface. He said interviewed, he spoke one-on-one with the people who work for him in his private organization. I don't think he should do that alone. If you want to know better, perhaps maybe you should do a survey, go out on the street, go out in the market. He said he used all of these roads, some of these roads in Ibadan. Go out there, go out to the market, ask people, genuinely ask them. If you cannot go out there, because sometimes, we Nigerians want to see politics because of what we are trying to look for, perhaps maybe the small money we are looking for, we tend to lie about the nature of things. So maybe you ask someone, please help me do a survey. Ask people questions. Let us know the state of living, how it is for people. He's talking about minimum wage, the president raising minimum wage, which is 70,000 naira. And so many persons are just saying, this is just on paper. And for the persons that really receive up to minimum wage, 70,000 naira, what can 70,000 naira do for a house of four? Let's say the mother, father, and children. How much is school fees? How much is the cost of living daily, the food you eat? If you want to eat 2 or 3 square meals a day, how much is that for the next 1 week? Will 70,000 naira really do a lot for the average?
I think, just to add to that, maybe we should talk to civil servants about that, because again, Uncle Bayo made reference to the Credit Corps initiative, which has been institutionalized at this point in time under this current government. And as we know, basically it is only civil servants that have access to that facility. So the question is, what's the ratio of civil servants to population in Nigeria? I leave that to my Uncle Bayo to answer. And then he talked about his Ijebu people. That as it stands right now, they are no longer complaining. And I do hope that's an experience that the Ijebu people are not having will also be replicated in the lives of other Nigerians across this country end to end. And then finally, he mentioned NEL Fund, that if you have 4 children, for example, even if all 4 of them have to go to the university, they do not have to bother. I mean, parents do not have to bother about tuition and seeing them through school, because government has made NEL Fund, the Nigerian Education Loan Fund, available and accessible to them. So that has already taken away some burden. But what Uncle Bayo will now have to answer, and hopefully there's a sequel to this interview someday soon, is what kind of marketplace or labor market, as they call it, are we preparing these graduates from? We hear we're doing over 1 million every graduation cycle now in Nigeria. We would like to see him do that with data and, as a colleague will say, with some empirical evidence. All right, so that's left to Uncle Bayo Onanuga to answer. Yes, you can use the social media handles you're seeing on your screen and be part of this conversation. Make sure you drop your thoughts. It's Global TV NG on YouTube, and let's see what exactly you have concerning all of this topic. And yes, thank you so much once again, Uyi, for your contribution to today's topic. And this is where we'll call it a day on Social Pulse on Global Morning. I am Ogoch Kumob, and I will leave you in the hands of Jumai and Uyi as they usher us into the discussion section of Global Morning. Once again, good morning, Nigerians and viewers around the world. Bye for now.
When social media speaks, we listen and we bring you the extra. It's your one-stop shop for trends, tweets, and the tea everyone's sipping on. Join the conversation, share your thoughts, and get that extra dose of what's shaking the internet.
And on issues making wave on social media to your doorstep.
Social Buzz Extra, where the trend meets the talk, only on Global TV.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning.
For the latest issues,
Always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
At Wichtech Cables, we don't just make cables, we deliver excellence. Our products are built with advanced technology, trusted for their unmatched quality and durability. With a wide range of cables, swift delivery, and continuous innovation, we stay ahead of the market demand. We are proudly Nigerian, fully indigenous, yet world-class. Backed by a professional team, strong technical support, and a deep commitment to customer satisfaction. Wichtech Cables is more than a brand, it's a promise. Wichtech Cables, quality cables better than the best.
At Aerogym Shoe Factory, excellence starts from the ground up. Located at number 1 Pound Road behind Nigeria Correctional Service, Aba, Abia State. We produce 1,500 high-quality shoes every single day. Paramilitary shoes, safety boots, desert boots, ankle shoes, back-to-school footwear. All crafted with state-of-the-art equipment and built for strength, comfort, and durability. For reliable footwear that stands the test of time, choose Aerogym Shoes for better product, strong steps, smart style. For inquiries, call 091-264-53399 or 070-3009-3944 or 080-6573-8374 or call 081-3167-3668. Email info@aerogym.com. Website www.aerogymdesign.com. Aerogym. Walk with confidence. Walk with pride.
Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
In an age of breaking news, you need a trusted source that prioritizes accurate, factual, and unbiased reporting. This is AM News, and I am Ubong Usoro.
On Global Television, our news is rooted in verified and authoritative storytelling that keeps you educated, informed, and enlightened on all the issues that matter to you. I am Sadia Yakubu. This is Midday News.
You can trust our multi-platform news broadcast real-time and fast-check stories for all the big local and foreign headlines round the clock. I am Ramsey Enoch Agbo. This is News Express.
Our array of anchors delivers the news to our teeming viewers, breaking it down with context and perspective. This is News Cycle on Global Television. I am Anieti Patrick.
And the flagship news is your hub for the day's most engaging stories. This is News Prime, and I am Jumai Manson.
Did you miss any of our news rounds? No worries. Catch up at 10 p.m. and midnight, 7 days of the week. I am Mukhtar Kasim.
Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times channel 276. We're active across all social media platforms at Global TV NG.
Global TV News, accurate and unbiased. I'm Uyi Agmofwebe.
At Wichtech Cables, we don't
As of early Tuesday, a band of rainfall that affected the extreme northern parts of the country moved from the northeast across the region and exit through the northwest. The system delivered moderate to heavy rainfall to several areas, leaving behind clearer skies and periods of sunshine in its wake. Looking ahead to Wednesday morning, some locations will continue to experience sunny conditions, while others are expected to see increased thunderstorm activities. So thunderstorms are likely across parts of Sokoto, Kebbi, parts of Kaduna, Adamawa, Taraba, Kwara, Niger, Kogi, and Benue State, while light rainfall is expected over parts of Edo Delta, Rivers, and Cross River State. And as we move into the afternoon, weather activity is expected to become more widespread across the country. Light rainfall is anticipated over much of the southern region, while we expect moderate to heavy thunderstorms over the north central and the northern states. And that concludes the forecast. Do join us again. I am Akani Samarda.
We'll take some time to talk about the state of insecurity in our country this morning, plus what the implications are socio-economically for our people. It's one thing when we talk about what government is doing, we talk about what government intends to do, we talk about how we're trying to cut sources of funding, supplies, those channels of supplies of essentials to these terrorist groups. But the question is, while all of those commendable efforts are ongoing, what exactly is happening to our people? What is happening with our people? In what specific ways are their lives being shaped by insecurity in our country today? I mean, just this morning, Juma and I read a headline that says 47 bags of army uniforms had been discovered by the police. And like we asked, who ordered for those consignments, as I like to call them, to be shipped into Nigeria, and who was going to clear them by what means? All right, and how many do we have in all? Because if you have 47 sacks, there is a chance that you have multiple pairs in one sack. And what's obviously, I mean, what's ultimately is the goal? What do they want to do with them? Is that how the military authorities or the defense authorities move uniforms or other essentials into the country? So these are some questions we need to ask, and it appears we are still scratching the surface, because at the end of the day, these guys have become more sophisticated, more structured, more systemic and systematic, and better positioned to move all of these things around. And that's the reason you realize that people who have been kidnapped and were fortunate enough to survive the den of their abductors would come out and tell you that some of them were wearing army uniforms, some were wearing police uniforms, and you're asking yourself, how did they get to have access to those uniforms? Some say, well, maybe because they had murdered some of these people, putting their lives on the line for their country, or they have someone somewhere making them. But in any case, we've got to get to the root of this and be able to cut off those supplies. Otherwise, we'll be here counting the numbers of militants, or if you like, these terrorists and bandits who have been eliminated. But nobody is asking, why is this scourge itself not going away?
Yes, I like that question you just asked. Why is the scourge not going away? Someone will tell you, your guess is as good as mine. As if the more we try to nip this in the bud, the more it keeps raising its ugly head deeper and deeper. And just unfortunately that this is where we are. And you just wonder, you say to yourself, with all the numbers of trying to curb this menace of insecurity, of all the wins, of all the terrorists that have been captured, those in captivity, and you just wonder, it keeps coming over and over again, much worse than before. And you and I would have said to ourselves with what would happen in Oyo, with the abduction that happened with the school teachers and children, at least it will douse a bit with so many concerns from the international waters in Nigeria, troops trying as much as possible to, try as much as possible to rescue these victims, what happened in Castina, in Kenya and all of that. You think to your mind that these terrorists will be scared enough to draw back. But they are still daredevil. They are in the front line telling you that whatever you're doing doesn't make sense and we've not nipped this particular issue in the bud. I don't know, is it like a statement that we're trying to pass? Or is it something that we're not seeing that has moved over our eyes and we're not seeing and we do not understand? Really, it is a cause for concern. And to make it worse, the captors in their midst are dying, losing their lives. It is a very big concern, and it is a very big issue at hand. But as you said, I guess as good as mine, why haven't we solved this issue of insecurity? It is long overdue, and it's just unfortunate.
It is. The thing is, one of the things we're saying with these terrorist groups is that they're doing more of psychological warfare.
Exactly.
The goal is not just to take lives, attack police stations, military formations, drive people away from their farmlands. Yes, they want to achieve all of those, but in the final analysis, they are sending a strong message, first to the government and then to the people. They're trying to tell the government, we are not only doing all of this, we're doing them on your soil. So it becomes a game of, I'm invincible, you can't catch me, or catch me if you can, like that movie. Right, that's what you're doing. Because these are not people who are launching attacks from off our borders. They are on our soil. And Nigeria is a sovereign state, right? So when you look at all of those, you realize that they're intentional about their goal, whatever, no matter how evil that goal is, they're very intentional. And they have systems in place to make that happen. Juma, under our very nose, you and I here, we've heard cases, reports of how someone has been arrested, moving marijuana and other illicit substances to these people. The person who is their arms and ammunition plug, all right, the vendor, so to speak, who supplies them arms and ammunition. We've seen people who have been alleged to have been sponsoring these people. Because you see, as evil as terrorism is, you need money to make it work.
Oh, yes.
So you're not just going to wake up and say, because you do not like Nigeria, you are going to become a terrorist. You need essentials, you need supplies to make it work, to be able to achieve your goal. So I'm saying this to say that government must be a bit more strategic with this fight. The goal is not just to impress Nigerians with the fight. It is to show results to Nigerians.
Yes, exactly. And that is what we actually need.
Right.
Results, not just numbers, results. So, and when you make up these results, or will I say these numerals, let us feel the impact.
Right.
It's very important. Has insecurity been curbed, or has it been doused to a certain level? I guess it's as good as mine.
Well,
our guest is here.
We're joined this morning by human capital engineer Prince Dickson to help us look at the human elements in insecurity in Nigeria as it stands today. Of course, Mr. Bayo Onanuga, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, now says that things are really not bad. After all, Nigerians have this and that, courtesy of the government of President Bola Tinubu. But we're staying squarely with insecurity for the next 45 minutes. It's good to see you, Prince Dickson. A very good morning to you.
Then thank you for having me in the studio. I appreciate what you're doing, by the way. I needed to drop that. Thank you for doing it.
All right. Well, let's begin from, the last time we were here, we also talked about issues around the economy, how Nigerians are grappling with the realities of today. But let's talk about the specific ways in which insecurity has reshaped our dear nation. Of course, you and I know Nigeria as we know it today. It's not the same Nigeria we had known some maybe 15, 20 years ago. So talk to us about what the implications have been for the everyday citizen.
Yeah, the truth is that the reality we are facing is quite huge. And I think to some extent, I do believe that while I'm not underplaying the work of the government, the military and all the stakeholders are doing, the fact remains that a lot is happening and everyone just needs to be involved to be able to see how best we can correct what I've come to call a pandemic that is out to really wipe out Nigeria. The truth is that insecurity has gone deeper than we think. And, most times on national television, on programs, consistently we keep hearing the argument, it is non-kinetic, and all those military terms comes to play. But the challenge on the table as we speak here is that insecurity has become first and foremost even a business to the level of becoming commercial, such that there's a lot of people involved in it. And I heard when you were discussing it, together with Jemai, on how far this has become almost a communal thing, almost like a community, a tribe. There are those who are supporting, those who are enabling, those who are providing all that is like to be, provided for this wickedness to continue. But this is where my point comes. As a human capital engineer, what we always look at consistently, especially in our work, is we look at the process entirely, the system. What has insecurity done to the system of a human being? Now, you're looking at a child, for instance, now, that experience or survive other children being kidnapped. That child went to school, and then at the end of the day, he ended up with kidnapped. What has happened to that child is that, first, you have imbued now, you've developed a mindset to that child that going to school is a risky business. That child have seen or heard that their teacher has been beheaded. So first of all, you have corrupted the concept of education for a young child. You have messed that child's head up in terms of, so gone are the days now where you can now look at a child easily and tell the child, look, go to school, read, so that you can get a job, so that you can be valuable and add value to the community. That child is seeing peoples like him, is seeing his mates being kidnapped, and some of them, recently a child died, in the custody of the kidnappers. That alone tells you that the concept of education already has changed. Education in principle as it stands now is not safe. That is the language now. So that you even see some parents who tell you, oh, go and take your child away from you don't want to, put people, put themselves in danger. So first, you've corrupted the concept of education because that consistent kidnapping of children in school, and to a large extent, they have done it so well that to them, they have found a pattern and they get to realize that it seems they get more attention by doing that. They get more money by doing that. So at the end of the day, the challenge now is that there is so much on the table in terms of education. So already, even the process of training young people are already in trouble. First of all, the concept of education has been redefined. We are talking about learning, but learning where it is not safe. Going to school, but going to school where it's not safe. Now you're dealing with parenting. How does a parent go to work or stay at home and be comfortable, not knowing what is happening to the school where the child is? That again is a trauma by itself. And supposed to take the child to school, maybe go to work or perhaps go home and do other things. Imagine the psychological torture that has been brought on every parent in Nigeria now, because you are just so unsure. You don't know if while you're doing something, you just get a call that terrorists broke into school and then kidnap your children. So at the end of the day, that is tension on its own way. Then you move that by the side. On a larger picture of human capital, if you cannot train young people, how then do you build the people that will develop Nigeria tomorrow? So to a large extent, the whole concept of human capital, we are losing. It's like a bleeding state. It's not just a matter of just productivity. This will play out on our economy. And it will start from a micro level and eventually get to the macro level. Because eventually you're showing people that cannot be trained, but will not be educated because they're afraid of the environment. And because they are not educated, they cannot acquire the skills and the competence required for them to bring value to national development. You see how this thing is growing as a system. So it means it is not a sector-based challenge of saying insecurity, the military, the paramilitary will handle it. Now, we're talking about affecting us on all ways. But I would like to make this distinction. I've had opportunity to discuss with some general do the challenges happening. And also, if you listen to, I think the chief also, I kind of quoted that the challenge they're having currently is that the community is aiding and abating them. And I think for me, that's where we have wicked characters are taking advantage of the existence of fear, anger, humiliation.
I'm talking about the implications, frustration, anger, which you expect in a country that has several tens of millions of citizens, and given the vehemence of this economic hardship and things like that. And that's the reason the commentary by Bayo Onanuga is very disturbing. Because you're more concerned about the fact that, by your own estimates, government has bumped minimum wage by more than 100%, but you're not asking what was the cost of living, right?
Exactly.
When minimum wage was half what it is, right? Versus now that you have moved it up by more than 100% according to your estimate. So the long and short of the story is government needs to understand that economics are not just politics. They are about what people, how people live, the quality of life. So it's not just about coming to try to defend the government, which we understand because you're part of the government. We do not realistically expect that you come on national television and badmouth your own government. However, we also are disappointed that you would, as it were, insult the sensibilities of Nigerians by making it slides, so to say, of the real-time hardship that you're grappling with.
There is just something, like I said, leaders. When you're a leader, when you say who is a leader, someone who is empathetic, someone who understands the plight of you and I, he fixes himself in the shoes of these individuals in order to, so he feels and understands the brunt or the pain in which individuals whom he represents in society, what they feel. It's just unfortunate that people are just there. Like I would say, you're just there to just give a good face, and then not forgetting the fact that you are actually not expressing what we feel as Nigerians. There's a better way that he would have said that statement. There's a much more better way, but not the way he said it. It was just outrightly wrong. And for the fact that Nigerians are going through a lot, especially hunger. A lot of households now eat once a day. A lot of households will tell you they eat today, maybe they might not eat tomorrow, the next day. It's getting to that point. Right. And it's just unfortunate that most individuals who do not understand, who do not feel the brunt of this pain that most Nigerians feel, do not really understand because they've not placed themselves in those shoes. Right. It's just really unfortunate. But like I said, this is where we are.
Quite unfortunate, really. But then again, government must continue to be held accountable. Especially given that election is even around the corner. So politicians in their natural element will be busy selling all kinds of agenda to citizens. So we must look at where we are today and use it as a basis to quote unquote negotiate or renegotiate with governments, because your voter card is your bargaining chip. How you use it is basically going to determine whether you have an advantage or not going forward. But as it stands today, realize that our people are not in a good place, whether it's insecurity you're talking about or it's the cost of living. But we're focusing on insecurity because we have to, first of all, be alive to even know that government is making a difference for the better, doing right by the people. And that also brings us to the governors themselves. We saw what happened with NSAS, for example. Not just even NSAS, COVID-19. How that some governors saw that, look, this was beyond the federal government. This was even more of a grassroots issue. And they intervened one way or another, right? Of course, we can sit here all day and criticize the efforts of those governors at the time. But we're saying that we must hold state governments accountable as much as we do the federal governments. Because we're very clear, the laws are clear as to what state governments should do, what the federal government should do. So we can't be going to the federal government for things that the state government should be addressing already. And state governments can be very tricky. Even when they know that the box stops with them in certain areas, they want you to go to Abuja because they do not want to take on that burden that even the law itself has specifically assigned to them. So we now need to enlighten our people. Civic education is no longer negotiable. People must understand how the system works. Of course, we had a guest a few days ago who said that we are at a place in our democratic journey where even citizens, for the most part, do not understand what democracy is about. So they realize that they are at a disadvantage because the political class knows that these people do not know better. So they take advantage of that. So they use that as some sort of, leverage going into the election. So we must now enlighten our people, let them understand that, look, there's something called social contract. It therefore means that those you have elected, whatever the capacity may be, must deliver the dividends, whether you call it dividends of democracy or whatever it is. Government must do its job. That's the point, all right? Whether it's roads, whether it's markets. Look at Edo State. I mean, my home state, for example, there's the hula battle now around what we are hearing that the state government has earmarked to refurbish or upgrade some markets. And the figures just make your head spin. But beyond Facebook banter, we must have people who have the requisite intelligence to probe into all of these figures and then, of course, come to a logical conclusion. We understand our guest, Prince Dickson, has rejoined us. We appreciate you for coming back on, Prince Dickson. Would you be kind enough to just land on that very valuable thoughts that you were sharing a while ago?
I appreciate the opportunity once again. Like I was saying, my point of emphasis is that we need to see insecurity as an ensemble. We have to see it as a compound, a collective term. Number one, first, insecurity cannot be seen as a government affairs alone. And I will tell you why. Because whatever is happening in every community, that community has a culture, it has a tradition, it has it has a people. I grew up knowing that a stranger don't come into a community without the community being aware of it. One of the logic of what made the African community what it is before now is that immediately you come in, it is easier to spot that you are a stranger. That was a safety valve. That was a safety catch for us. It was our strength. So a stranger don't come into the system. And that is why Africans have this proverb that says that it is the rat in the house that tells the rat outside where where there is food. So first of all, even before we start dealing with people coming in, the first thing we must recover back is our communality. That communality is strength. It handles insecurity it by itself alone. Because as a people, when you're covered, if a stranger comes, it's easy to track that stranger. But this is the problem which I think we are missing. What we are missing is that the reason why, not that I'm making a case for those communities, but if you understand emotions and you understand human psychology very well, which what the terrorists leverage on is those psychology. You know that most Nigerians are going through the challenge of injustice. Most Nigerians are going through the challenge of hardship. Most Nigerians are feeling hopeless because they are not enjoying what you call that dividends of democracy, the benefits of leadership. They are enjoying it as it should. And because they feel alienated from the resources, they feel alienated from what you call the advancement of Nigeria, they now become soft targets psychologically for these terrorists to take advantage of them. Now, for someone who does not believe in Nigeria, for someone who is feeling hopeless about the country, for someone who feels cheated about the country and the environment and community, if a stranger comes to offer something as little as a bread, they easily accept it to sell out. Because as much as possible, whatever our military want to do, whatever the intelligence we're talking about, the intelligence of a military will only depend on the support of the community. No military intelligence can outsmart the intelligence of a community. None so far that I know of. For you to get the best community intelligence, military intelligence, you need a community support. Now, when you have a community who don't believe in you as a security apparatus, who don't believe in the country you represent, when you come for them for details and information, they won't give it to you. They rather will take those details and give it to the terrorists. So for me, I believe that there is time for us to start looking beyond just fighting insecurity with bullets, with ammunition. I know that the military and the security forces have been doing a lot with eye clinic, doing a lot of verticals and even horizontals with community so that they can imbibe with the community. But these things are not events. These are not something you do when there is crisis. These are things you do before there is a crisis. You buy and get the trust early enough before challenges will emanate. In the middle of challenges, when you come to do all these things, at that point it becomes a trade and barter between what I know you're doing, not because you like us, not because you believe in us as a community, but because you're trying to achieve something now. So you're trying to be nice to us. And so we know that after this conflict, after when you get what you want to get, you are going to leave. We're not going to see eye clinics anymore. We're not going to see, women being tested with blood and the rest. We're not going to see the military providing support, for the community. This is the mindset. And with that kind of mindset, they can't give you details. And that's why anytime I hear all the analysis keep insisting on, and they need to get community intelligence, they need to get intelligence, soft intelligence, you can't get it except the community believes in you. But the community can believe in you when they're already angry with the state, when they're already angry with the instrument of government. That is where the dichotomy is. And that is why fighting security is becoming more difficult. Because you have some community that are willing more to aid the terrorists than they are willing to aid the state. So at that level, you now realize we have moved from bullet. Now we're dealing with pure psychology. We're dealing with ownership of a country, ownership of a territory, believe in a system. And that is why consistently I will always advocate. Nigeria needs to help Nigerians to gain back the love of the country. It is only when they do that that they can provide support for every instrument and apparatus of the government to get the kind of result they seek to get. And so fighting insecurity, one of them is having a good election, allowing election count. If I know election would not count, how do you think that when I have terrorists around me, I'm not going to allow them have their way and then make some little money? Because at that level, I'm thinking from a survivalist mentality. My mindset is that it's the jungle. How do you call it? Is it cat rich eat cat? So the best I can do, if this is what I see available today, I will collect it. They won't look at it from a medium and a long-term perspective. And so at the end of the day, when I'm putting insecurity strictly in the hands of the government, in the hands of the military, and that's why it's overwhelming them. Because that community support they need for them to conquer this menace is not available. And it cannot be available simply because you ask Nigerians to support the security men. It cannot be. Psychologically, something is not balanced. You also have to help Nigeria to believe in the system, believe in your government, Look, I think I will end here. In election, that's one of my greatest fear in Nigerian election, if you look at it from a human angle perspective. The principle is this. Most time we think it's okay to rig election, it's okay to just whatever with this win at all costs. But what people don't know, there's what they call the legitimacy of election winning. Meaning, you can win an election, but I still don't believe in you as the leader. So you may spend the next 3-4 years of your government convincing me to believe in you. So your statistics, I will not believe in them. Your reports, I will not believe in them. The efforts you make, which may be true, when there is proper satellite and honest assessment, may be true, but I just don't believe in you because I don't perceive you to have been in that place based on a legitimate process. And because I did not legitimize your coming in or your leadership, it becomes difficult, almost impossible to listen to you and to support you. No one can rule a country simply by government apparatus. You rule by community support. And if community support don't believe in the process you came into power, you might spend 4 years trying to convince people that you are the president. You might spend 4 years trying to convince people that you are the governor. Anything you say, they will not believe. That is the human angle of governance that we are missing. And that's the human angle of security that we are missing. Without a community buy-in to the existence of this government, it is difficult for them to fight insecurity. So the only way forward is let's go back, make sure we lay the system properly so that the people in the system will believe in the governance enough to support them to get the kind of result they want.
Another question, the extent of the increase of insecurity, but I want to ask that how you landed is prompting this question of mine now. You said something about not believing in the individual, trying to convince people if I do not believe in you, the conviction and all of that. But what if the individual who has been elected in that particular position is making impact? The individual, when it comes to unemployment, there's now employment for graduates in the society. There's no more rise in inflation, good healthcare system, good education, we have power. What other convincing does the individual need in order to get that other person's support? Do you really need to strive to make an impact when the impact is my action and not what I have to say every day trying to convince you? So I'm trying to understand that notion that you have said, Mr. Prince.
It's a very valid point. And the thing you need to understand, I think we underestimate the damage psychology, and reputation does to a person. It's like being in a relationship and then you cut
right there. These things can be very tricky, Joman.
Very tricky.
I quite get the perspective from which he's talking. He's saying that someone will have won an election at any level, president, governor, local government chairman, House of Reps or whatever. But Juma says, I still don't believe in this person. Maybe because she didn't vote for the person, because the person has not been able to convince her.
Or he's not my candidate of choice.
That they can deliver in that capacity. He says, well, I also don't believe in this person, but, well, he's here now, that sort of thing. It goes to the question of legitimacy. But the question again is, did the person win the election legitimately? Did the election follow due process? Was the declaration or outcome of the election in compliance with the law? If we tick all of those boxes, then what would now be going forward is to put pressure on that person to be able to deliver in that office. I think that's what it is. And that's why you see our laws must not only be strengthened, we must have institutions that are vibrant and responsive. Most times our institutions do not respond. Do you know, for example, how long it took for Nigerians to have a commissioner, if you like, an agency of government, which is now the FCCPC, the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Council, that will respond to issues regarding protecting the rights of consumers. How people will buy things and not even have the value, and nobody cares, nobody feels concerned, and the cycle continues across the country and things like that until we saw some reforms just some years ago now coming through regarding, I wouldn't want to call it customer service, but consumer protection. Because you see, consumer rights is very important, but who really cared until when the pressure really mounted and people became very relentless about saying that there was a change in that regard. So when it comes to insecurity, it's pretty much the same thing. And that's why personally I'm very interested in hearing what candidates will say, especially presidential candidates, as we go into the 2027 general election. What are you going to be telling Nigerians about insecurity? Is it the same story you told them in 2023? Is it the same agenda or the same proposition that you sold to them in 2019? A lot has changed in the last few years. So, given the reality we're dealing with today, the scale of insecurity we're seeing in our dear country today, what will politicians be telling Nigerians differently beyond the rhetorics?
Exactly. In fact, I think that is what coming to the drawing board is all about. I think Nigerians really need to hear something different from what we've been hearing before. And because we've heard the same thing over and over again, there is no impact. It's not being felt. So everyone is just looking at everything at this point, and we're not even sure anymore. And it's just unfortunate that it has gotten to this point, because a lot of people are going through, let's use the common word, a lot.
A lot, yes.
A lot of people
somebody said a lot is not only, I mean, that they are not only going through a lot is also going through them. So sounds like two traffic.
Exactly. But at the same time, we need to hear something differently. Things need to be done differently, so we can still have that, we can still believe in what we are going into when it comes to individuals who are putting on that particular seat. It has a lot to do with what they're going to bring on the table differently now. And that is why I said you need to go back to the drawing board. Don't tell me how I need to pull down President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Don't tell me how President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is not performing. Don't tell me all about that. You, as a political party who is coming on board, what can you do differently? Aside from the statistics that you're giving on to us, some individuals don't even understand. Can I go to the market and then at the back of my mind, I don't have to check whether 50,000 naira that I took to the market is missing, or someone robbed me on the wayside, because I cannot validate what I just bought. And these are the kind of questions that a lot of individuals are asking. Someone strives so much to take her child to school, selling all what she has, and at the end of the day, he's unemployed. These are questions that need to be raised. An individual is sick because she cannot afford the basic when it comes to anti-malaria medicine, which is on the high rise now, or the person has typhoid and you need to get an antibiotic, which has skyrocketed, by the way, and you're wondering what is going on. Look, there's so many things, and we need answers, and it's not the same old. Go back to the drawing board and make a difference, especially when it comes to insecurity. I've always said it on the program. I said once we nip in the bud insecurity, every other thing falls into place, because we need to be alive in order to enjoy healthcare. We need to be alive to get the best education. We need to be alive to eat well. We need to be alive to move from one point to another. All of these things circles around insecurity, and it is a big deal. And once we nip this in the bud, every other thing follows.
I totally agree, every other thing follows, but then we must start, as I say, first things first, and we must begin from the basics, all right? We must be able to identify. The U.S. is doing theirs from Washington, and they're telling you this person is involved in financing, ISIS. These businesses, and these persons behind these businesses are also complicit in the financing of ISIS, and we know how Americans deal with issues like this. But the question is, will Nigeria as a government put its foot down to also address these issues from the same standpoint?
You know what, when you say that, it takes me aback, and I think for as much as so many individuals in our country gain from this bloodshed, gain from insecurity, banditry, terrorism, kidnapping, abductions, gain from all of this hurt and pain that they've caused communities, families, they've caused even this administration. At some point, we heard what our dear president said, they're trying to use insecurity to actually bring him down. Not saying it word to word how he said it. If we want to do the needful and the right thing, I think we should allow the U.S. State Service to do its due diligence when it comes to bringing out these individuals who have decided to cause menace and havoc in Nigeria and to the Nigerian citizens. If really we are tired of this particular ill that's in our society, which is insecurity, I think that is the first roadway in which we can curb this menace of insecurity, allowing us, bringing out the names of, not just bringing out the names of these financiers, but let us know them, and they should be tried accordingly, and if the law takes its course. It's very important.
You see, I look at all of this and I realize that whether you like it or not, we find some sort of consolation in knowing that the U.S. government is working hand in hand with the Nigerian government. So they are not saying Nigeria is the entity sponsoring or financing ISIS. They're saying there is a Nigerian, which means a citizen of this country, and you have businesses domiciled between Lagos and Kano. Some of them build a shanch, all right, sponsoring, being used as conduits to move funding, to move money for the these dastardly acts of terrorists. So we hope Nigeria continue to strengthen its partnership with regards to defense with the U.S. And then we also saw the National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, in Washington not too long ago, also engaging with his U.S. counterpart, the Secretary of War. I think President Trump would rather call him Secretary of War as against Secretary of Defense. But what we're saying with all of this is that we must continue to see this kind of collaboration between Nigeria and the U.S. government, and we hope that whatever intel is being exchanged, particularly coming from Washington to Abuja, is maximized, is used on standard best practices, because sometimes what you hear after some years is U.S. shared so and so amount of intel, so and so year, and Nigeria didn't do anything about it. So we do hope that this doesn't fall through the cracks, and that at some point, distant time, the issue of attacks across this country will stop. Look at what has happened in Kebbi. Kebbi is one of the most agrarian states in Nigeria, not just in the north, in Nigeria. So when you look at the spate of killings in that state, can we still confidently say that all is well with Nigeria? Of course not. All right, because this man has just been killed was not just a regular person. That is going to have become, to have risen to that level of becoming the state chairman of a ruling party in Nigeria is no mean feat. So that same person gets captured and then is taken into a bush. Next, the person dies, and then we go back to square one, asking ourselves who is next. That has to end.
That has to end.
All right, we're taking a quick break, everyone. When we return, it will be the victory lap, as I'd like to call it on the program. Please do not go away. Wake up with Global Morning, your daily guide to what's happening and making the rounds.
We delve into headlines, newspaper reviews, spot-on analysis, policies, current events, real talk, real issues that affect us all.
From the latest trends to the debate, every topic, every angle, Global Morning is where it all starts.
Global Morning,
For the latest issues,
always on point.
Watch Global Morning Monday to Friday at 7 a.m. Saturday and Sunday at 8 a.m. on Global Television.
It turns out we were unable to rejoin our guest, Prince Dixon, but then we're grateful to him for jumping on this conversation at short notice, and then for those valuable thoughts that he expressed while the conversation lasted. Incidentally, issues around insecurity, they are ongoing in our dear country. Today is big. The Senate will be voting on the amendment bill that has been sent to it by the President, and we have been assured by the Senate that whatever happens by end of July, the legal framework required to set up the structure for state policing would have been ready. In other words, by end of July, the National Assembly would have done its part, which is very reassuring. But we have also seen from rhetoric, from body language on the side of the President, that he wants this to happen as quickly as possible. And that energy is commendable because this is long overdue. But again, my people say that the time at which you wake up is your morning. So let's get started already. And then we now hear that state governors are saying, look, doing all of these, we need to be clear as to how we are going to fund state police. We need to be clear as to how we are going to fuse, so to say, the state police and the federal police. In other words, we need to ensure that we remove any obstacles, any sort of element or factor that would give rise to friction between the federal police and the state police, which is very important. But you see, it's good that we started at all, because ultimately what matters is that as we make progress, we continue to make adjustments as required. Look at our Constitution. It is called 1999 Constitution as amended as of today. But it has not always been as amended because it was originally introduced in 1999, which means that between 1999 and today, the country has realized that things aren't the same.
No, they're not.
So once there is a need to take a second look at a portion or a section of the Constitution, we go back there, take a look at it, to make necessary amendments. We had the Electoral Act 2022, but again, just last year, we realized that, look, we've got to align with the reality of today. We made amendments here and there, even though we've seen controversies, we've seen some backlash. But 4 years down the line, we now have the 2026 version of that same piece of legislation. So that said, it simply means that we must keep an eye out on the reality. The way we fought insecurity 5 years ago or 10 years ago won't. That's why you see even the military, the defense, the police, they are all also challenged because they're trying to ensure that they are at least one step ahead of these criminals. And that's why as citizens, we must also give them as much help as we can. I believe very strongly, even though I've not spoken to any military or defense leader, that it will be possible to record this level of success against banditry, against insurgency, against kidnapping without intel, without information being shared by people in communities. Because whether you like it or not, the soldiers, the people in the military, people in the police, they are human beings before anything else. So they also need people on the ground, people in those communities to tell them, these are the things we're hearing, these are the things we know, these are the things we've seen, and then they're able to leverage and say, okay, we can move forward with this kind of credible intel. For example, in Edo State, we understand someone was kidnapped at a vegetable market right on Airport Road. I mean, walking distance from the airport, where you have businesses, you have companies, you have schools, you have residential buildings and all of that, right? It's a very popular, in fact, it's a landmark in Benin. But we're hearing just yesterday that the state's government has been able to make the move to not only arrest the masterminds, but to understand the mechanism behind how they work, which is very important. It's not enough to say we have arrested those who kidnapped a particular person or a particular family. We must ask ourselves, what is the structure of what they do? What is the modus operandi of their activities, so that we can end it once and for all?
Well, and that is where state policing comes into place. For me, I would say, I think that's the first move that we should understand, that they're the ones that the people have access to first. You mentioned at the beginning of the program that for some state governors, they feel, let's quickly run to Abuja, let's go to federal, and then that's where the buck stops there. It doesn't stop with me. I can actually handle situations here. And it's a protocol we should understand, from the individuals to the state police, you know, to the commissioner, and the commissioner to the governor, and then the governor to the president. So at the same time, it's very important that we have credible intel, individuals in that society who are in favor of trying as much as possible to curb this menace of insecurity. So it's very important, like you have mentioned, intel is very important, and the right intel. The individual has to be credible, not just any kind of intel, because we know how that plays out. We see saboteurs here and there. But at the same time, it's very important that we understand that there is a chain, and that's the only way that proper handling of insecurity can be met when it comes to the issues of insecurity, basically.
I think that's what it is. And then we also need to put it on record that we're hearing that the police authorities are also now recruiting, all right? Recruitment is also going on in some arms of the military as well. This may not be fully out there, but the idea is to say, look, wherever there is gap or there are gaps, we have them. If you say, for example, that there's manpower, if you like, deficiency in the police, we need to ask ourselves, what can we do to end that? And we understand more than ever before in recent times, the Police Service Commission is now more cooperative. I mean, there's now more cooperation between the Police Service Commission and the Nigeria Police Force. We need to see more of that happen so that we don't politic with people's lives. Last time we checked, the police ought to have recruited some 10,000 people. But then there was this tussle between the PSC and the leadership of the police at that time. Some people say it was a war of ego between the chairman of the Police Service Commission at the time and the then IG of police. But we must not make this a personality fight. Instead, it should be a fight that makes Nigerians win, a fight that puts the Nigerian first, all right? That's that for those recruitments. And let's also mention that for those who may be interested in joining the police or the armed forces, please, you need to know that there are racketeers all over the internet now who are taking undue advantage to collect people's, to, as it were, fleece people of their hard-earned money. So please, get to make your inquiries through the right channels, through the right sources. We know you have good intention, you want to serve your fatherland, but you also need to be careful so you don't become a victim while you're trying to do right by your conscience, by your people.
Very important.
Right, that's the much time we're allowed to take on the program here today. It's been a long morning already, and the day is just getting started. Thank you so very much for joining us here on the program. And remember that the views of all of our guests across all of our programs are their opinions. I am Uli Agmofwebe.
And I am Jemai Manson, and of course, keep watching Global Morning and of course Global Television. Have an amazing day ahead. From Uyi and I, we say